Welcome to selfdiscoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, my wonderful guest here today with Irish blood and her passion running through her veins is Eme McAnam. We're going to be talking about her novel, the novel of senior romance, Freefalling. And did she fall freely into romance? This is what we want to know. It's a provocative debut novel exploring senior romance and the challenges of aging. We're going to be talking about the issues facing our aging society, particularly when it comes to relationships, intimacy, and romance. No, we're not out to pasture, folks. We've still got the passion within us, and we want to be able to express it. And we're going to be sharing, what romantic literature, older readers, and why she feels that why aging may have its hurdles, but it's not a stop sign. Completely agree with that. Dementia, romance, love, aging, a powerful, provocative, senior literary romance redefines notion of fulfillment in one's golden years. And, yes, people like to call it the golden years, and yes, it's a gift to have this knowledge of life, life experience, etc., that really takes us to where we are today, to actually understand what really is important in life, what we really love in life, who we really are in life. It's absolutely wonderful, and yes, it's golden. It's full of the jewels of life, but that's where the exuberance is. This is when we truly and utterly understand what living is all about, isn't it, Emmy?
Oh, that is the truth. We finally accept that living is less complicated than we thought. Romance might be more complicated, but living, we know how to do it by now.
I also think romance takes on a different level. When you're young, romance leads to passion and 50 Shades of Grey. You can keep the gray. I like the rainbow. So, it's life is about color. Life is about expression. And I think, it was kind of, which genre do I put this under? Because I have another genre called sensual expressions. And that one, is yes, the sensual shows go underneath it, but it's also that we are tapped into our senses. We know how to touch, to feel, to taste, to be in life. We're in tuned. And so it isn't about the sex per se. It's about the romance of life itself that tingles all of our senses and just gives us the reason to get up every day.
I love the way you think. That is exactly how it is. When I wrote Free Falling, I made sure that I depicted not just the pairing romance, but I believe romance covers our entire life, whether it be lighting candles when we have dinner, man friend, lady friend, it doesn't matter. Light the candles. What are we waiting for?
Exactly.
Buying our own flowers if nobody shows up at the door with a bouquet. And making sure that I believe in having bubble baths and sensual lingerie and beautiful music, and also get down sometimes. Just roll out Etta James and hit it.
Yes. Feel the body groove. I do. I have a music genre for the love of music. And I said, there's certain music that just elongates me. You could just feel the entire body go with it. And it's like, put it on and go with it, right?
Absolutely. And in different moods, it's different music. Yes, there's some that elongates me, but some makes my skin come alive in a different way. And, let's face it, the largest organ is our skin.
Exactly. And it goes to, you talked about buy yourself the flowers, take yourself for dinner. And sometimes when you need a hug, the gentle touch of your own arms and your own arms embracing you, right? It's
I
like
like the way you think.
it's wonderful if you've got somebody's arms around you, because for me, that's the epitome, that those arms around you where you feel safe, where you feel at home. I haven't felt that in many, many years with anybody else, but I put my teddy bear right here and I cuddle my teddy bear, and I know my teddy bear is going to look after me and I feel at home. So whatever you have to do, right? You do, but it is, don't be afraid to express.
I think that's true for all relationships and all parts of life. I was talking about hugs with a friend, and there are those people that are kind of stiff and they do the little pat pat on your back. Yeah, like, really? Why did you do that?
I
That's
feel like a
pretty
dog wagging its
rude.
tail, right? Yeah.
Except for the tail goes down.
Yeah.
I don't want the little pat.
Yeah.
I like the person that envelops you in the
Mm.
warmth and heart to heart. You feel that love coming through. And that can happen with men, women. I don't care what your brand is.
Right.
When we talk about connecting with humanity, I think the connection is getting close and staying there.
Yes. Yeah. With whatever, with whomever. I think just being in touch, in
Yeah.
touch with life, in touch with living, in touch with the simple joys of life. I think we're so busy when we're young, chasing a dream, chasing a career, chasing a romance, chasing love. And, with most of us, and bless you if you've managed to have 40, 50 years with the same person, you
Oh,
are a
bless
rare species, because most of us, we choose a person based on where we are when we're young, and we know where we are when we're young is confused. And right? And so we,
you.
in our confusion, pick a partner and then wonder why they don't work. Right? And
Yeah,
and
right.
and then it's like, okay, the ultimate divorce, and then it's like the bitterness, and then it's the rebounds, and or then a new relationship. It's going to be completely different, and then you find it, oh God, it's the same, just in a different package. And
Exactly.
and then it's okay, well, what is it about me that keeps attracting that? And maybe I need to be the love I seek so others will know how to love me.
I think you're right on target with that because the truth is, until we truly love ourselves and truly know ourselves, and that includes knowing our bodies,
Mm.
until that time comes, we're always seeking fulfillment from another person. They're coming in to complete us. All those old romance songs, oh, you complete me.
Oh,
I think
vomit.
that's a red flag.
Yes.
Hello, I don't want to complete you. I'm looking for a whole man.
Yes. Compliment me. Compliment me.
Yes.
We compliment each other, but complete, that is not another person's job.
No. And it's very dangerous when
Yeah.
somebody leans on you that way to be all that for them.
Hmm.
And so I think as we get older, we begin to look at, okay, what is essential in a relationship? Now, in free falling, you start to see a relationship where Charlotte, the lead character, crosses a line she had never crossed before, as did her lover. And in that relationship, she found so much of what she yearned for, that other rules of her life were set aside so
Hmm.
that she could get that fullness that she was seeking.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
and whether it's something that is sustainable over a long period of time, is always a question in the journey. Like what you were talking about, that I had that kind of relationship after my divorce. And it was never meant to be long term. It was the wake up
right.
relationship. It was the reminder that I am, a sensual soul being, that really needed to get back up into the universe and stratosphere. And I needed the right
Yes.
person that could take me there. But it was never meant to be long term. So the relationship itself kind of petered out because it could no longer sustain that. But we got into business, and then we were living together as friends, and way too long. I should have got out of that way too. Yeah.
Yeah, there are some cautionary tales in
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I
Yes, don't
say
waste
that
time.
I've had four men in my life who I've deeply loved, and they will stay in my heart. I
Mhm.
do believe there's a fifth, and so I'm not done. But
Good for you.
of those relationships, each of them brought something different
Yeah,
at that time.
yeah.
And truly, they were not meant to be the
Right.
forever companion. I think you may have read that I ran an assisted living facility for
Yes.
9.5 years. Well, I learned a whole lot from the seniors.
Oh, what was that movie where the aliens come down and they all go swim in the water with the
Oh,
eggs?
cocoon,
Cocoon.
cocoon.
Yes. Was there a little
Oh,
cocooning going on?
oh my. They weren't waiting for special pills that I know, but there was, in fact, the
Viagra
woman
abundant.
who inspires the first line of my novel, Freefalling, starts with, "She leads with her breasts as she enters the lobby." You know that girl.
Oh, yes.
She had dementia, and it just so happened she thought she was running this, what she thought was her hotel, and truly it was the assisted living. So she's directing people to clean things and whatever. But in the reality of living amidst, when you're running an assisted living, you're right in the living room of the people who live there.
Mhm.
You do have an office, but let's face it, I was interacting with seniors a lot, and I learned to see them as people.
Mhm.
Now, this lady who was the flirt, she actually attracted a man. And this man followed her home every night to her apartment, and they went and did who knows what. But I can tell you at 9 o'clock every night, he left her apartment looking blissful.
And she had a good night's sleep.
Oh, I think they did. And unfortunately, the family didn't get on board with this. They
All
were
right.
uncomfortable. They called it a care conference. This really inspired part of why I wrote the story
Leave them alone.
because
They're happy.
right. But when we get older, there are people who see us as old. That's the
Mm.
whole definition. They don't see our sensual
Yes.
bodies. They don't see the colorful personalities. They see our inabilities
Yeah,
and make it our entire definition. So I'm
exactly.
sitting in this care conference, and the family's talking about it's just not appropriate. People this age shouldn't be doing that, whatever that is. And I said, well, what are the real risks should they be doing that? And they said, well, it's not appropriate. She has some dementia. Yeah, I still didn't hear the
Yes,
objection. Yeah,
yes.
they both had some dementia. They
Yeah,
were living in the standard living environment,
right.
but let's face it, it's not uncommon. And
Well, they
the
were both
something
revisiting their past if they're in dementia, because that's what dementia does. You go back into the past, you don't remember the current. So if they both went back down memory lane together and had a good time, shouldn't you be feeling grateful for that?
I would. I
Yeah.
tell my son, you stay out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
If I get lucky, you're gone.
Yeah. Right with you.
So, the sad ending of that story is the family moved the man out because they were most concerned about the fact that he was becoming attached to this woman and he had dementia. It wasn't long after watching this woman sadly go
Mm,
through her days. She was dejected like a 16-year-old.
yeah.
Romeo and Juliet. They just pulled her love away. And then it wasn't long before she was moved, and she was moved directly to memory care.
Mm,
She was doing fine until the turbulence of that aborted romance
Yeah.
occurred.
I,
And
I,
then,
I just, I'd hate the interference, and um, I'm into podcast books as well, which we have a book coming out by Christmas, which will be the Forgotten Children series, and then there's a business book, and the next book after that is the Forgotten Seniors. And
oh,
it is the abuse of seniors. It is the treating of seniors as if we're out to lunch and we don't know anything. Just
right.
all I can see is that you what you can't do. I can't see who you are and what you can do. And so
Yes,
I so want you to be a part of that book, please, because it's a collaborative book. So, and
I'd love to.
for that reason, because it's, being in the care home, you understand what people, it's like putting a horse out to pasture, on its own in a paddock where it really wants to be around people and reminisce and have company and shared energy. And it's this dismissiveness of people that, their own prudishness,
Oh,
their own insecurities, their own issues were imposed upon those two people where they should have been celebrating that they had found this in life.
yes.
She wasn't going to get pregnant. It didn't need a shotgun wedding. It was two people that were happy, to be with each other. And so what if they didn't remember each other all the time? They remembered each other when they did, and they remembered each other, you know?
Oh, they'd see each other in the lobby and
Mhm.
they lit up. I was jealous of
Yes,
what they had, to be
yeah,
honest. It
yes,
was so beautiful and so unfiltered.
yeah.
They just saw each other as amazing,
Mhm.
special, magical. And they reacted to each other that way all the time
So
until,
sad to see that, other
you
people.
know,
Stop interfering, folks, right?
yeah, get out of the way.
Yes, when it's happiness, get out of the way. But when people are actually being abused or anything else, then where are they? They're nowhere to be found, right? So
It
it's miserable
seems that
people don't
way.
want other people to be happy. But it just proves that um, whatever they were doing behind the closed doors or however far they went, it made them happy. And again, it's that we don't need the 50 shades of gray activity to have our fun or to
Right?
enjoy ourselves, right? Because again, at our age, obviously with certain limitations physically, we, we we know what we enjoy, we know how to have pleasure with each other. And it just may not be the athleticism that it used to be, but it's certainly, comfort. It is something that where we feel really comfortable with each other and feel that we can still express each other. And this whole thing about once you're at a certain age that, you shouldn't have anybody in your life is, it's like, well, my kids are constantly trying to say to me, Mom, it's time for you to join a dating app. And I tried that once, and all I got what I call were wife beaters, the people in the white t-shirts. And everything I asked for not, I got, and it's like, but seniors have every right to have love. Seniors have every right to have romance. What level that romance is, how far it goes, that is up to each and every one of them. But we want to share our lives with somebody. Now, does it mean that we have to have that and we're going to sell ourselves short? No, we've spent a lifetime investing in ourselves. So we're not going to sell ourselves short now. We are looking for that person that sees us and compliments us, where we can go off into that twilight zone and enjoy each other's company.
Oh, we deserve that.
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
deserve
Paid our
to have
dues.
them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was visiting with a man a couple of weeks ago, actually on a podcast, and I was quite surprised that his line of conversation was how do men find dates? He's a senior and apparently he has a child living at home. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, these are
Hmm.
complications.
Hmm.
The reality of this chapter is there are complications.
Yes. Yes.
They could be physical
Hmm.
limitations, cognitive limitations, financial challenges. How do
Hmm.
we, kind of pull all that together, the who's paying for the date, but then again, who's doing all the cooking. Then again, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
depends on and the rules are changing. So
Mm.
we get on the dating apps like you talked about, and men of our vintage are getting on there and they're learning the new rules. Well, let her handle all that, let her do all that. But on the other hand, they're still expecting us to be setting the table and making the
Mhm.
meals and doing, who got those groceries, by the way. And so you can't have it both
Both
ways.
ways. Exactly.
And we have to be, as couples, flexible in the conversation, touching on things that we didn't touch on in our 20s.
No.
The rules were more clear. And now,
Whether they were right or not, they were clear.
yeah, they may not have been right at all, but we knew what they were.
Yeah.
And now in senior dating, we're not quite sure of what they are. And I too have had some experience on dating apps, as did this gentleman I was visiting with. And it's hard to identify authenticity.
Oh, yes, it is. I'm not here to fix you.
Mhm.
I'm not here to proverbially iron your shirts. I'm not here to complete you. I'm just looking for an equal to spend
Yeah.
some quality time with.
Yes. And then negotiate the rest,
Yeah.
whether it's the groceries, the driving, all the parts that become important. Then you find, those parts. But beyond that, beyond the nitty gritty details, it's about finding love.
Yeah.
It's
Someone
about,
you look forward to seeing, someone you look forward to calling on the phone, someone you look forward to that conversation with in trust. Because I
yeah,
think love is different for us at this age. There's a trust factor there, right? And it's like I'm willing to be open, I'm willing to be vulnerable, I'm willing to share myself and all that I've accumulated in my life, my children, my grandchildren, my experiences. But I am sharing this in trust. And I want you to respect that trust and be of equal to me.
that is so important because as we bring all of these other
Mm,
important people into the story, and we expect that our companion can be part of what's important in our life, we need to know that they're going to respect and
hmm.
care about the other
Yes.
people we love.
Yes.
Well, I have a friend, however, who hides behind her grandparenting, and she can't quite figure out how she can't get a man to fit in her life. And yet it's glaringly
Yeah.
obvious. She doesn't even need love from a man
Hmm.
because she's confused by the kind of relationships she has with her daughter and the grandchildren. And though that is love, that is not
The
the
same.
sensual
Yeah.
relationship I'm looking
Right.
for.
And
And I think most on the apps really are looking for more than that.
yes, yes. And I think I think we also get to a stage in our life is that, maybe at one point, the sexual prowess would be, that chemistry would have been extremely important, and I know for me at my stage of life, if that happens between us, all jolly D. But I want the sensual of connection between us to be the emphasis.
I totally agree with that. And I think that may be one of the gifts
Hmm.
of the senior years for men.
Yeah.
In the beginning, in those early years, the issues were really more related to are they going to hurry up and get done and roll over? I don't want to get too gross, but um, you're wanting more.
Yes.
And you
Or is
snooze.
that all there is?
Yeah, is that all there is? Is that all there is? Yeah, sometimes. But as we get older, men have biology changes. We all do. Let's face
Yes.
it, things are
Yes.
not as high as they once
No.
were. My corners are softer, but with men, their
Droopier.
performance, yeah, well, soft corners are good pillows. I believe it. But with men, they have measured their performance by activity below the belt without
Yes.
gross.
Yes.
And what happens over time for most men, that's not as predictable. And if it is predictable, it's probably not working.
Hmm.
And so then we're looking at men who are appreciative of the sensual relationship, and they understand the importance of being able to relate at that level and savoring the skin to skin and
Hmm.
understanding the importance of conversation as
Yes.
part of that.
Mm.
And the savoring is
Yes.
really the job of
Yeah.
great lovemaking.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
It's,
I'm
good.
I'm overheated now.
Yeah. Good lovemaking is that stimulating conversation about everything, about life, about everything. It is in the holding of the hand. It is the look across the room. It
Oh,
it's the arm around the shoulder. And again, when the actual act comes, be it short, be it long, it doesn't really matter at that point because you've been making love to each other.
oh my goodness, that is entirely accurate. And that look across the room
Mm.
that you mentioned, I know for myself what I crave in my next companion is the feeling that somebody's got my back.
Yeah. Oh boy,
I'm
yeah.
strong. I've gotten stronger than I really should have to be,
Yes.
but it's because I have to be. And I'm not going
Yes.
to be able to change that. And so whoever meets me has to meet this bold version of Eme, who showed up in the world to write a book called Freefalling.
Yeah.
And then when that person meets me, they're going to be needing to somehow come to understand that though I'm strong and though I'm bold, and I think this happens to a lot of us once we become single for a while,
Hmm.
we still crave having somebody who's got our back
Yeah.
because we've had to field every storm by ourselves.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, are you talking my my life right now. And it's like there are times where you're just tired of being strong. There
Yeah,
are times you just want to put your head on someone's shoulder and say, please take the wheel.
yeah.
Please decide for me. Or all I need is a hug, a genuine, loving hug, where, I'm somebody in my life that I don't have to apologize for because nobody else
For
sees them
you.
the way you do, right? It's just, they can,
Oh,
just that I'm comfortable in silence with you.
oh, that is powerful.
Mm. Don't we
That's,
look for that? We could sit in the
yeah,
same room, both reading a book, listening to
right.
music, doing our thing, but feel each other's presence, know we're there for each other. Again, a look up from the book, as you giggle at a path or at a path, and you look at, got to tell me about that. And then back to your book. And
Yeah,
that kind of connection is what I call the sensual, because you are sensory in touch with each other.
yes. At the most important level, we
Mm.
know we have five senses. Many talk about the sixth sense, like the aura around us.
That's the one I live in.
Yeah, that's the important
Yes.
energy. And I
Yes.
think that's the energy that
Mm.
continues beyond the body.
Yes. Yes.
Limitations. Now we're getting into my airy fairiness, but I actually do
No,
believe.
darling, you're talking our language, and this is what this platform is about. Sixth, seventh, eighth sense. It's about time we stepped into it because
I
it is
think
actually
so.
our compass, it is our guide, it is our wisdom, and we don't give it enough credit. And yet, the reason why we're strong, and the reason why we've been able to bear, and the reason why we've been able to triumph, whether we like it or not, alone, is because of that wisdom. Those other senses, sixth, seventh, eighth, whatever you wish to call it, have been our guiding system, have been our friend, have been our compass, have been our comfort. But the body longs for that essence of that strength that came through us that allows us to be who we are today, we're looking for that essence actually in a human body
To
where we
share
can
it.
share it.
Right. It doesn't work getting with another human body who can't resonate at that
Yeah,
level. And
exactly.
so, when I talk to groups and I talk about free falling and the importance of living our joy to our last breath, yes, I am talking about having a sensual life
Hmm.
to the end of our story. But it is also important not to limit our
Yes,
sensual life by
yes.
choosing the wrong partner that makes us feel apologetic or limited or trapped
Mm,
out using the intuition and the other parts of who we are. The wonderful companions are those who, if not able to resonate at that level themselves, because that isn't always the
no.
case, but at least respected.
Yes, and value it and learn from it and want to be a part of it because then they can inspiration begets invitation. When they're inspired by that essence of yourself, it allows them to set themselves free.
Oh, you're so right about that. And I do notice that people that I linger with,
Mm,
there are people that go through your life and they're fine and you want to be helpful or whatever. But those that linger have the ability to at least be open to understanding at
mm.
that next level how it fits. I was
What?
talking to a guy the other day who seems to be attracted to younger women. And he's in his upper 70s and hitting on women in their lower 60s. And very confused as to why they are not finding him attractive because he does have money.
Hmm.
And
If that is attractive, that's an asset, but
yeah,
that's not his only asset. And if he's relying
absolutely.
on that, then sad on both
But
sides.
here's the other part of that. Don't we want to be with people closer to our vintage?
Yes.
Not necessarily right on the mark. I would
Yeah.
say we can go
Within a
back.
decade. Within a decade. Yeah.
I'd say
Because
decade.
you've got some relatability, you've got some similar memories, you have similar experiences. Yes, you know?
And have the opportunity to grow that much. This
Yes.
is not to say that my son, who's 47 soon, that he's not bright, that
Yeah.
he's not talented. But let's face it, it's a little different by the time we get into our senior years
Yeah.
and we take the accumulated knowledge, the accumulated experience, and bring it into a new brew of who we are.
Yeah.
And I want to meet partners who are able to brew at that level.
Well, it's finding your vibe tribe, isn't it? We as women, we look for people that are on that same vibe as us. And then, that vibe becomes a concert and we were all, vibing away together. We would like that with a partner. We want to have somebody that we can have just as much fun giggling at a movie as we could at anything else, right? Having dinner party. I miss that so much, being able to host or have dinner parties or go to dinner parties or go out for dinner with a man, have those long conversations, just that hug. I mean, I miss that. Unfortunately, for me, I don't know about for you, but because I am a sensual being, it is always misconstrued as a sexual being, and it always is the sexual prowess they want. And I've been through that in my life. I've been viewed as the sexual, uh, not the sensual. And I don't want that anymore. If that is to come, that will come in the relationship. I don't want it to be the lead. And so where you
Oh,
have a
yeah.
nice dinner and you think that, oh, this is something that could build, and then they come on all hot and heavy, and it's like, oh God, I'm completely turned off. Because if that's all you're looking for, go somewhere else. I am so much more than that. And this is not what's being served on the table at the present moment.
Right. Well, I happen to like both parts. I like the sensual part and I like the sexual part. Let me just say that's the truth of the matter.
Maybe
But the
my
sexual
libido's
part,
gone. It's been a long
well,
time.
I wonder if it wouldn't be re-inspired by a good connection. I think that a lot of women have been turned off by the
Yes,
man who, makes the aggressive approach
yes,
and then is disrespectful
Mm.
when he doesn't hit the goal that he had
Right.
in mind.
Yes,
The
exactly.
idea that at third date, if you're not scoring, you're gone, you know, that's preposterous
Right.
in my mind. And
Exactly.
that's not to say that it can't happen and that it can't be authentic. I don't like to be judgmental about that. But when I wrote the novel, I made it very clear that these two characters who got into a complicated relationship got there because in Free Falling, they were sharing conversations and they were going to levels in their conversations that they weren't going to with other
You're
people.
right.
That is the way you get true intimacy.
I'm about to say that that is the true trust of intimacy. When you
Yeah,
get back to that vulnerability, when you feel safe to be vulnerable with someone, trusting them with your information, and you know that they're not going to betray it or throw it back at you, right?
yeah,
Then that intimacy transcends sex as far as I'm concerned. It transcends everything because yes, it can lead to good sex, etc., but it's deeper than that.
yes.
That vulnerability, that intimacy of trust, of I'm safe with this person. As you said, this person's got my back, right?
Yes. That safety is part of what becomes the physical connection ultimately,
Yeah.
because our bodies change.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're in our youth, I didn't know I was attractive when I was younger until at age 50, I noticed something was different. And I thought, well, what's happened? I missed a sound. And what that sound was his head swiveling when I came into the room,
And the whistle.
lip swiveling.
Yes.
Now, that's not to say that we don't have a kind of attractiveness, it's different,
Yeah,
but we no longer are depending on that as our easy first step.
right.
Our companions also need a learning curve along
Mm-hmm.
what was their early
Yeah.
easy steps. We all have to find different first steps. And then when those conversations, which are the true heating opportunities, when that intimacy is building, at that point, a touch means a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
talk about, touching hands.
Yeah.
I can't remember what movie it was. It was very sensual, Elizabethan, where the guy kisses the woman's inside of
Yes.
her. And I thought, oh my Lord, that's
Yes.
so sensual.
Or the two hands are side by side as they sit next to each other and the little fingers lock.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's almost the forbidden love or the forbidden touch. And that any
yes.
form of touch is the possibility of what could be. And I think that's also something that's gone very much in today's world is the anticipation, the wonderment. Everybody just gets straight to it. And it's like you're missing out on all that wonderful magic that
Oh,
builds
oh,
up on
yes.
it, and you wonder why you were let down because you were fornicating, you weren't making love.
Well, and the other thing about waiting until that fire
Mm,
builds, truly builds, is that then we have something to fall back on.
mhm.
And so that sensual connection, when it finally happens to become sexual, that is a memory that holds a couple to that point as their potentials.
Mhm.
And you know what you're going to have with somebody by that time. Otherwise, these wild pairings,
Yeah,
say there's more STDs in
yeah,
Florida than anywhere
yeah.
because of
A
these
little
new
too much rumba going
lovers.
on there.
Yeah. And, I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that what I look for is something different. And what
Well,
I talk about,
having gone through that, because I'm a 70s chick, I was in my teens going into adult youth in the 70s, living in South Africa, which was
oh,
everything was outside, and I was also ran a disco, one the second
you
mobile
ran
discotheque in
a
South
disc.
Africa. Yes, yes.
I love
But
that.
mobile disco. So we went to play at other people's parties and weddings and things like that. And when you see people kind of dancing around the pool or dancing outside underneath the starlight, and the wine's been flowing and the right music is playing, and the whole crescendo is built up over the night. The bodies are relaxed and they're loose, and people are making those connections. And and you can just feel in the atmosphere. It's being built up. And you can understand why, certain people, it was about free love. Remember, I'm free falling,
Oh,
free
yes.
love.
Free love
And
back then, free falling now.
oh, yes, exactly. And it was that era of, exploration. And um, it, it wasn't so much just about one night stands and things like this, but um there wasn't the anticipation that, oh, now you've had intimacy, so you've got to get married and you've got to go that. People were experimenting with relationships and affairs and things like that, and it was an expression, I think, maybe confusion in many ways, but at the same time a
Mhm.
form of expression, brought on very much about the hippie freedom and non-conformity. And I've never been a person who could conform. You say that word to me and I come up in hives. It's just completely non-conforming person in every aspect of my life. And so I felt very at home in that world, because it was a world I could truly express myself in, because it was free and it didn't have the boundaries. And then kind of we went into the 80s of AIDS and sex being, different. And the 90s, which by that time I had already bred 3 babies. And so I was in complete motherhood. 80s was having babies and 90s raising them and everything. It was only into the 2000s when I became divorced. 5 years later, I had a relationship which nobody liked, because nobody saw what he did for me. Nobody saw how he liberated me. Nobody saw how he showed me who I was, because he didn't show that to anyone else, right? And so they just saw him from the way they saw him and didn't like him. But nobody saw what he did to me. And so it was sad that they didn't see that, because he changed me. Even it was a short period of time that he changed, over a period that he changed, but he changed me. He did liberate me.
Would you have stayed if your friends had liked him?
No, because our relationship was not meant to be long term. We got
Okay.
involved in a business together, developing a new electric motor, which was a quantum energy motor, way beyond its time. We fell into 2008, where the people backing us, it became bankrupt. Then other people backed us and they stole the technology, and ended up living out of
Oh,
our van. I lost every penny I had, and so I've
oh,
never recovered from that. And then it was he said me I can't do the motor anymore, and he actually ended off. I was his muse. I was the door opener to his own spirituality, because that's what I do. And through that and some of the things that I was doing that he adapted to, he's now working, developed an AI program for Microsoft. And it's a world.
oh,
But he's one of those people, if you're not a part of his world helping him, then you're not a part of his world. So,
uh,
I outlived my usefulness. But we shared the same house because I needed someone to rent with me, because I couldn't afford it on my own. And I may as well have somebody I know.
right.
And so it was way too long. Our period was 11 years together, way too long. And
Ooh,
and even though I was kind of free to date and things like this, but I know his energy was blocking anything. But
oh,
I was in discovery of the podcast. That's where I started that. Because it's 11 years now I've been doing podcasting. This month is 10 years of my own
ah,
network. And he somebody else started me on the podcasting, but when I started my own network, he started me off with the template on that and set me free on that part. So there's a lot of things that he did for me, but there's also a lot of things that I lost because of him. But I made that choice in believing that it would be what it could be. And it just was choosing the wrong people around us, and therefore it wasn't.
well, we're allowed to make mistakes.
And
I
you weigh it
think
up,
that,
what I gained from it, what I lost, you know?
right. And where do we really learn?
Yes.
I had a wise friend. In fact, the man who died of Lewy body dementia during the writing of this book, my dear friend, was brilliant. And he used to talk about we cannot learn from the
No,
good parts of
no,
life.
No.
Where we're really learning is when it gets bumpy, when
Yes.
it's really hard.
Yes.
Those nights where the tears are falling and we're worried they may not stop.
Yeah.
That's when we're taking on true growth.
Finding
But
our resilience, finding our courage, finding our strength, discovering our abilities, realizing
yes,
that we can do so much more than we thought we could do. We are so
yeah,
much more than we gave ourselves credit. But all of that is a very bumpy ride. And I think it was Trevor Noah or Gabor Mate, one of them, because I watched the two shows back to back. But they say you don't have to enjoy the experience to become
right.
something great from the experience. It doesn't mean, we go for the hard knocks to become, but it doesn't mean you have to enjoy the hard knocks.
No, no, nor do we need to run from the hard
Right.
knocks.
Or,
I
or,
think
or
it's
stay victimized to them either.
right.
Hmm.
I believe the only way we can move forward is to take the hard knocks,
Hmm.
learn from the hard knocks, and move forward.
Yes.
I used to tell my staff that I don't have a problem with people making mistakes. That just is life. I have a problem with making the same mistake twice.
Yes, because you didn't learn
And
from it.
right. And by the third time now, this could be a real issue.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. But what we are, we're habitual creatures. And I don't know about you, but I know with me, in a sense, I married my father, right?
Oh,
But I married my father on steroids as far as the demeaning and demoralization and the verbal bullying, right? I've married somebody who was Oriental, he's Chinese, uh, different country, different religion, different background. And I thought I was marrying somebody different, but instead I married the essence of my father. And it's recognizing your patterns. We will make that mistake over and over again until we recognize why we made that mistake, how to release what it is, that pattern, that thought process, and change it so that we don't make that mistake, recognizing that, oh, that mistake showing itself. No, no, we're not going to go there. We're going to take a different path, right? But it's
right.
recognizing why the mistake was made in the first place.
That's the advantage of having time under our belt.
Yes, yes,
That's where a senior is supposed to be able to approach romance in a very different
yes.
way. Understanding, okay, it's not like it doesn't continue to have some attraction
Hmm.
because that's our history. That's in our core information. Somebody who's rude in your scenario probably kind of go, ooh, you
Hmm.
know, but then you get over it. Ew. The other side of that is like,
Uh-uh.
okay, been there, done that. That one was
Exactly. I learned that lesson.
yeah, that's right. But it's pretty easy to go down that path again and again and
Yes.
again.
And it always shows different faces, right? And
Hmm.
and I think this is, going back to when we talked about before of looking people, we're always looking for validation in life, whether it's through romance, love, our children, our work. We're looking for validation that we're okay with who we are and what we're doing. And really, the only approval and the only permission you need is from yourself. And as we get older and willing to do the work, we discover I'm the only one that needs to give this approval. If you choose not to like me for who I am, what I'm doing, I am not offended. I'm simply not your
Right.
cup of tea.
Not a match.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
not a match. When I was writing Freefalling, I'm one of nine kids. And one of my brothers said, oh, I'm not at all interested in that. And I said, well, you're not my reader.
Exactly. What
Oh,
number are you in your siblings?
I'm third from the bottom. I have two younger sisters, two older sisters, four older brothers, although one of those brothers died in January.
Oh, sad
The
to hear that.
youngest of the brothers. So
Mm.
first sibling. Well, yeah, there was one before I was born who had died, but large family. And what I know is families are a good place to practice
Yeah, oh boy. Yes.
because, I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
Hmm.
And especially in the family, there are rules of who you should be and how you should be.
Yes.
And here I am writing sexy scenes and talking about seniors being sensual. They've been
Oh,
married forever. Don't tell me I have to unzip.
your mind is in the gutter.
Yes. Oh, only if we're lucky.
Yeah. It's actually been interesting because I've interviewed people on different subjects and only to find that they're exotic writers. And it's like you look at them and like this is their job, this is what they do, and they said, "You're an exotic writer," you know,
Ah,
and
ah,
a whole new kind of hidden world. And there's one gentleman that retired, and he was dating women, and then he decided to write kind of an exotic novel, kind of somewhat based on his journey, of romance. And it's like, why not? Not only is it
why not?
titillating for other seniors to see that this, life ain't over, mate. And if the engine is still revving, put it in gear.
Exactly.
All right. But it's also for anybody that is younger, which, may not be your 20 or 30-year-olds, but your 40, 50-year-olds, kind of realizing the clock is ticking. And like, well, this senior is still doing that. I want to be like them. What are they doing?
Yeah,
Let's read the book and see if I can learn something about that, because a great deal of it is attitude, isn't it?
it is. And how many times on the romance path did we think it was our last chance? I remember a dirtball said to me when I was 30 and I broke up with him. He said, "Well, you better hurry up and get somebody because you're losing your looks."
Yeah.
At 30 years old.
Well, I would say
Oh,
my comeback to him would be, yes, it's got the ugly look because I'm with you.
expression is just a mirror.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. But again, age always gives us the great comebacks, not at the time, though,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
I was just shocked at the time.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, we ended out retaining friendship
Mm.
for decades until he died. And I was the person he depended on at that
Uh-huh.
point.
Uh-huh.
We were never sensual companions after that, but he did that when he was drinking. He was a Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if I was with him, it was when he wasn't drinking, and we kind of managed to have a appreciation of
Mm.
one another
That's nice
throughout
to have that.
time.
And and
It's nice
drinking
to have
drinking does always say bring out the real personality in a person, but it also brings out their insecurity. And you've a lot of men kind of approach relationships or romance or even sex, after a few drinks because it gives them courage, or it gives them a sense of entitlement, or it gives them something, right? They
yeah,
feel that they can't have sober. And it's
yeah,
like, put the same work in, to when you're sober, and then you won't need the drink and you'll actually remember
yeah, exactly.
what
You
you
won't
just
get
did.
sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is true that a lot of people reach for liquid courage,
Mm.
but that doesn't make them perform better. And I
No.
think it's really important to remember that, especially as you get older.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
I mean, I know you took a long time to write this book, part of it kind of life experience around you, kind of taking a nugget here and a piece there, and taking your time to put this puzzle together and make it a creation. And it's like, I think that's another thing that we learn as we get older. Just because you've thought of it right now doesn't mean it has to be done right now. It's that
yeah.
this is the outline of, oh, this would be a good idea. Let's explore, let's allow, and let's see where it goes. And let it create itself through you allowing and nurturing it. And we have more patience and more wonderment, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. It's been so exciting to
Mm.
write a novel because really you're making up stories. I
Yes.
have a lifetime of relationships, observations that I can brew into this story where I've had prejudice, where I've had questions,
Yeah.
where I've had, and people I've known who've done, and then because I think free falling takes a reader from judgment to compassion.
Mm.
Tell you, those scenes in the beginning of the book, uh, 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 my mother would not approve. And the reality is, I had friends who had relationships like that. And though I loved them and cared about them, I didn't quite approve of their
Right.
choices.
Yeah.
And yet, as this story unfolds and you get underneath the choices that people are making, free falling shows you that those people are much more complicated than an observer would have given them. And so
Yes.
therefore it's possible to actually like, if not love, someone who's doing some things that you don't approve of, but if you really know who they are,
But
you
you're an compassionate understanding
yes,
allows you to see their flaws, but you've chosen to see them as flawsome,
yes, yes.
right? Because, we've all got quirks. We've all got something that irritates other people, right?
Oh,
But they love us anyway, or they like a different aspect of us, and it's taking the good with the bad, or what they perceive is the good with the bad, and that they perceive this as a flaw, but they know they're awesome on the other light. So just put the two together and become flawsome.
I like that. I think I could be flawsome.
I'm much happier being flawsome because then I'm not trying to live up to somebody's high expectation. I'm lucky enough in life because I was so sickly and missed so much schooling to have extremely low expectations put on me. And whereas for a while I resented that, feeling that nobody thought I could do anything, I realized it was a benefit because nobody thought I could do anything. So therefore, I was free to explore what I could do. And when I did do something, it became surprising.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
I
I think
didn't
it's
have that
a blessing not to
experience.
have those expectations.
Yeah, the expectations that others put on us and that we then put
Yeah.
on ourselves.
Yes.
That's the part that makes us crippled, and we stay
Yes.
within a limited
Hmm.
framework for our whole lives
Yeah.
until we start to see the limitations, see
Yes.
that that's not ours, that's
Yes.
somebody else's voice.
Yes.
Hey,
Exactly. Why are
I
you
didn't
living up
have
to
to
somebody
leave.
else's into your issues? When somebody poses something, going, that's their issue, don't take it on. And my mother wanted me to be an international secretary. I couldn't even damn well spell it, never mind do it. It's how many
Oh,
people are
wow.
pushed into being a doctor and a lawyer because the
Mhm.
family want the prestige of it, and they absolutely loathe it, right? They've
Right.
done it for the expectation, but when there are low expectations, like for me, I got myself into trouble a lot being adventurous, and I was blonde and blue-eyed, and I'd be the dizzy blonde. And the dizzy blonde got me out
Oh.
of a lot of stuff.
Oh, well, I've been using my senior card lately.
What can you speak up?
Oh, well, do you think you could help me? I'm a
Mhm.
senior. Like I couldn't do most of what needs to be done. But
Right.
yeah, I know what you mean. In my family, I kept a lower profile in the crowd. And everybody knew I wanted to be a singer. That's what I was in the beginning. I
Yeah.
was a singer songwriter. But my parents required a college
Mm.
education. So I graduated with a degree in theater so that I could be a performer.
Right.
But really, I wanted to perform as a singer. So I got a job and I was singing. And nobody really treated me as if I was very smart.
I
And
know. Yes.
that
Yeah.
was real advantage in some ways, like you
Yes.
said,
Yes.
because fly as a fox. It's not like you're not seen the whole story.
Yeah.
When I got into financial services, they did some comprehensive testing, and the man who ran the office came to me and he said, I've interviewed more than 600 people. You're within the top five. I said, well,
What?
what do you said I said, oh, personality, because I
Yeah.
was he said, no, I mean in the whole thing. And I said, the lady had come in for the math part of the test. I didn't use a calculator. I
Mm.
said, could I have a piece of paper? And she said, people use calculators. Anyway, long story short, I came to know I was bright. And so
Right.
I did that for a while. And then I did financial services after that. And I've been blessed with being able to do kind of an eclectic pattern in my life
Art,
because
right?
I
Right.
could land
Yes.
on my
Yeah.
feet.
Yes. But that's that's the willingness to be more than one thing in life. I taught myself into jobs, or rather, I taught them into hiring me. Um, I was the first woman rep for Mobil Oil in South Africa. I knew zero
Wow.
about oil. They sent me off to a program, I still knew zero about oil. But I knew the people I was serving knew what oil they liked. That wasn't the issue. It was the customer service. That's
Right.
really what it was. And everything you go into, I've ran restaurants, I've owned restaurants, I've been in the theater business, I've been in the retail business, I've owned fashion stores. Everything is about customer service.
It is. My dad was an insurance man, and I remember one of our trips. He was taking me to school, and he said, "Everything is sales." I
Yes,
said, "What do you mean?" He said,
yes,
"Honey, you are selling your audiences
yeah,
on Loving You every night.
exactly.
Everything you do is sales."
Yeah.
Now
Busy.
I have come to understand and accept that, but I
Mm.
never think of myself as selling.
Well, I look at it this way. Whatever business you're in, and right now you're in the business of selling your book, right? That is it.
Absolutely. Buy Freefalling, freefallingnovel.com. Go to emespirit.com. Don't forget the important parts.
Right, exactly. But if people don't buy you, why should they buy from you? And
That's
that's the
right.
reason I do these podcasts. I'm here to promote people like you who've stepped into your passion, stepped into your conviction, who've been willing to free fall into who you are and why you are. And you're now wanting to share that wisdom, that knowledge, that uberance that you have learned in life. But if people during this podcast don't get you, why would they buy the book? If they get you, they
Well,
want to know more about the book. And that is, your father is right. Everything is sales. But the first and foremost, you are selling yourself. Make sure you don't sell yourself short.
yes. That's the most important part.
And
I
not everything is a dollar sign either.
Not everything is a
No.
dollar sign,
The
and that's
enrichment abundance of
really
your heart and soul is the most important
well, that's been the
message.
real thrilling part.
Hmm.
Because how are you going to get to the New York Times bestsellers list? I'm
Hmm.
one of these people who kind of builds a graph. Okay, how is this going to, you know what? It's a snowball's chance.
Yeah.
There are 14,000 books published every day, 2,400 in the United States every day. And so I had to sit down and think, Eme, if you really are building a business based on that kind of success, if that's your measure, you're on the wrong track.
Yes.
On the other hand, if my measure is the opportunity to visit with people like you and inspire others who put
Hmm.
their life on the shelf, who've believed the stop sign, who've taken the
Yes.
limitations and have seen them as the end of their happiness, that's my message. This is
Exactly.
not the end.
I would say with this, with the podcast, once they're out there, and I put them on many platforms. They're on 16 audio, they're on 3 video, they're on 4 sites, they're on many social medias. How people listen, when they listen, what they learn from it, what they do with it is 100% their choice. I have no control over that whatsoever. All I have control of is putting out the beautiful energy and the inspiration that begets the invitation to them. And that's up to them whether they pick it up. And I think letting go, sending it out with love, letting it go. It's the same with our children. At some point, we have to just let them go and be what they're meant to be, let them fall, come back home, hug, kiss, pick you up, and off they go again. That's life, right? And that is it but we've got to understand we are all energy. We're all part of particles of the universal energy. And when we send things out with loving energy, it's even received before it's perceived.
I agree. I agree. It's that area beyond our senses.
Yes.
That's where all that work is being done. And I believe if I'm in cooperation with
Hmm.
that belief. If I
Yes.
understand and accept it, I can bring my joy to every step of the journey.
Hmm.
I'm having such a great time visiting with you today. And I get to do that. And,
Yes.
if I didn't have a book, you might not want to talk to me.
Oh, no, 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 no,
Although
no,
when
no.
you
I
get
would
to
want
know
you.
me, you
No,
will.
no. I decided on that because, this is the thing. As I said, I've got the Forgotten Children series coming out, and then it's the Forgotten Seniors because we're part of the baby boomers, and there's so many of us.
Right.
But we are also seeing in a period of time where regular people can't afford rents, never mind seniors. And
Right.
the desperation of in like in America, medicine or rent or food,
Oh,
and homelessness and just being discarded, and it's not like other cultures where they revere their elders and look after and honor them till they die. Here in North America, it's dispose of them. Right? They're too much burden. Let's get rid of them. And we've got to change that. And the only way we change that is bringing awareness of what is wrong and how we can put it right.
that's a really important part, how it can be put right,
Yeah.
how we can find our way into the world when we're being removed. And
Yes.
I believe that starts at about 50 years old.
Hmm.
In America, 34% of the population is over 50.
Hmm.
Really? Are we erasing people starting then?
No,
It's ridiculous.
no, no, definitely. I mean, you have a 47-year-old.
Yes.
I have 34, 38, and 40-year-old. They're all about to turn in the second half of the year. And, it's like my daughter 40. How did that happen? And I had her at 28, so I had her late in life. Right. And so I look at it's interesting the conversations I have with them now, where they're
Oh,
at and what's important in life. And with each one of them, in my 40-year-old is a pure spirit. And when we do not look alike because, being half Asian, she has more of that build. And although she doesn't look typical Asian, but that she looks more like her dad's side of the family. But people immediately know we're mother and daughter because they say the spirit is the same signature.
wow.
My son and I, we have the same heart and passion, the way we treat people, the way we love people, the spirit of the people that drives us, and it comes from the heart. And from my younger daughter, who's made me a grandmother finally, I've got two beautiful grandsons now. She is more the um, inner seer. She's always been able to see people's BS, but she works with people with brain injuries now.
Oh
And
my.
so she's able to see and be more rational and logical and more practical and also hold you more accountable. All right. So she's more down
Oh,
to earth. All right. So, and it's interesting now, the conversations I have now as opposed to 10 years ago or 5 years ago. And this is one of the pleasures as your children get older, because the older they get, the more they kind of comprehend of what you went through, who you are now, the battles that you've had, and the more they actually revere you for who you are today, because they have a better understanding of it.
I agree. My son was born in my early 20s. Yeah, I had him very young. And I now have a grandson who will be 16 this summer. So,
I was
kind of
66 to get my first grandson. I just had to wait a
oh
long
my,
time.
oh, I got mine at a young age. And I was excited because then I could really live with him. I could play with him. I could enjoy life at levels that he was at.
Yes.
Now, though, he came to my book launch. It's kind of funny. He was the only younger person there, 15 years old, looking around the room, and everybody else was probably 30 on up. And I got to reading an excerpt that's pretty sexy. I mean, you can't write the book without kind of touching on
It's a
elements.
romance novel. The
Yes,
romance there's going to
exactly.
be.
And I said, now, Dylan, you got to cover your ears. He said, oh, Grandma, I know you. So not only does my son see me, but now my grandson
Yeah,
sees
it's wonderful.
me.
And there's something about being a grandparent, isn't it? It's just absolutely wonderful. It's a different vibe altogether, which I'm really enjoying. So, a lot of people, I mean, I live with a woman who's about to be 90 in July. Apart from short-term memory loss, she's probably stronger than I am physically.
Oh,
She can still run, she still drives, she still cooks for herself. She's a ferocious little thing, but she's 5 foot dark and very wrinkled, and everybody treats her as the little old lady and does things for her. Little do they know she's a black belt and could toss them over her shoulder. Right. And if she catches people speaking racism or doing something, she goes up to them. And I said that she gives them her black belt face. And she gives
oh,
them this face, and they look at this face and this little woman with this energy calling them out, and and they back off. And it's like, I have physical ailments that make me weaker than her, but I'm tall and I'm big framed. So everybody thinks you're capable. Oh, sweet little old lady.
oh,
But
oh.
she's feisty, stubborn as a mule, but feisty, and it's that she's a wonderful example. And she had polio when she was young, so 4 years of operations. She had a twin sister that died just before that. Her fiance was killed
Ooh.
4 days before the wedding, so she's known her own, sorrows in life. But for her, it's always been look for something to enjoy and
Yeah.
enjoy the simple things in life. And I think this is something we forget as seniors. We carry the burdens of the past, or we carry resentment, we carry this and that. It weighs us down. We should be at the stage where we can hear the rustle of the leaves. We can hear the ocean kissing the shores. We can hear the laughter of the children and the puppy dogs, and it warm our hearts and it lift our spirits, and we can immerse ourselves in that simplicity of that simple joy and truly understand the gift that it is.
Oh, that is so true. It is the simple
Mm,
joys. And too often we're waiting for the big goal to be the happiness that we're going to get. I think that's more characteristic in our youth.
yes.
And
I'll
then
be
we get,
happy when.
yeah, I'm going to
Yes.
be happy. I'll get around to that.
Yes.
I'm just not there now. I have
Mm,
to focus on this and
yes.
that. And then we set aside our traditional lives and make choices as we walk in the woods. For me,
Yes.
it's walking in the woods,
Yes.
it's listening to the birds, it's
Mm,
watching the light move. I've got
yes.
all these pictures on my website. I do photography. And for me, that's when life really
Mm.
began.
It's in
When I
flow.
put down, you
Mm,
just, there it is. And the stories, I'm writing another one now. And the stories are a way of me taking the thoughts that rumble as
right.
I'm walking in the woods
Yeah.
and the things I see as I'm going through life. I don't have to comment on as many things as I used to.
Hmm.
I just kind of add them into the
Yes.
fuel for a story.
Hmm.
Back here, my kids gave me this book. I don't know if you can read
In
it.
my novel.
Be careful or you'll end out in my novel.
In actual fact, I don't know if you remember this, many years ago, somebody was paying a tribute to Meryl Streep, and they were commenting of how she watches people, and how she then integrates it into her character. And they were saying, be careful how she watches you because you're going to end up in one of her movies.
That's right. That's right. It'll be your walk, or
Yeah.
it'll be that expression, or
Yes.
yeah.
But that's the beauty of it is that yes, you're writing a book, or some people do art, or some people do something else. For me, I'm a podcaster. I do these podcasts of these interviews, but every week I do my own show, and it's just a perspective. Sometimes it might be one word, and I press record and I see what comes out, and
Oh,
just let it flow. And that is kind of my art. I've just written my book, my memoir, and I have not done it traditionally. I've done it more as individual stories, and it's not about relishing on the pain or the suffering. It's on about this, what happened, but this is what I learned and this is what I became from it.
oh, I love
Because
that.
I prefer to put the emphasis on who I am today because of my journey than how rough the journey was, right? Because
Right.
I've interviewed some people with rough journeys. All right. And, mine was a walk in a path compared to some people, but it doesn't mean that it
Um,
wasn't hard for me. Right? It is, what
right.
did I do with it? What did I become because of it? But I love the idea of all of those little stories, all of those little happenings, all of those things, those moments you have in life, and then putting it into a story. It's you as the essence in the story, but now you can elaborate and make it a character that can
Yeah,
go somewhere that you can't go when you're writing a story about your own life.
absolutely. I don't know that I'd have the courage to do the memoir.
It took
One
me a
is
few years to get there, and then I wrote it
that's
in 3 weeks.
courage. That's courageous because, first of all, we have to think that our life is interesting enough
Hmm.
to be that, and that my pearls of wisdom somebody cares about. Yet, in writing a novel, I'm able to take all of that and
Yes,
kind of
yes,
blur it into
yes.
characters.
So, but
And
your people reading go, how much is her and
yeah,
how much is fantasy? You know?
I know. Somebody said, "Is this your story? Is this autobiographical?" And I said, "No, I don't have dementia."
Sometimes we kind of look at it and we have dimensional moments, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think that's the thing. My brother is a professional author and he's written many books, and this is, at university level, taught the master's degree in writing. And he actually read my book, and I was expecting for him, and that's before I kind of fully edited it. I expected him to kind of do, you can't say this, you can't do that, and he didn't, which really
Wow.
shocked me. Um, my sister, then dirty linen, and out, and my mother was all that. You don't expose yourself in that way, and it's like you. And my sister has no idea what I do. Doing this 11 years, 10 years with this no network, she still doesn't get what I do, and she once called me a do-gooder communist. So not quite
Oh,
how she got
good
to that.
Lord.
I know.
She's really out of touch.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and she just wouldn't comprehend what's being said in these anyway, because we're just totally on a different plane, a different planet in many ways. But we find those common denominators, and those are the channels that we interact on. We can have our giggles and enjoy. We just don't go outside of those parameters. She lives in the political world, and what world is in turmoil now, and I live in the celebration of humanity and what we can be if we choose to be, right? So opposite. So
Much more comfortable place for me to go to.
yeah, the thing is, if you're around turmoil all the time, you're going to be a constant hurricane. And
Mhm.
and that's reflected on her health. She has one issue after the other, and she doesn't put the association together. But you cannot be around this turmoil and this hysteria and this the whole time without it manifesting detrimentally in some way, emotionally or
I
physically.
agree.
So you somewhere along the line you've got to choose
Mhm.
positive living, another one of my genres, where it's like, yeah, shoot may happen, and I
Right.
may be upset about it, and I may grumble about it for a moment, but then what am I going to do about it? And one of the things
What
is I'm
can
going to be
you do about it?
grateful for the fact that I have the ability to do something about it.
Well, that's the problem with the whole political TV thing.
Yes.
I have a friend who, ad nauseum, there's politics screaming in the background.
Yes,
Even
she's like that.
when she's not watching
Yep.
TV, it's just this rant.
Yes.
It's a constant rant. And the job is to keep ranting.
Yeah.
So, of
Fear
course,
sells.
yeah,
And fear
it's
is a form of control. You make puppets out of people, right? Yeah.
this. And so I just get to I can't talk politics. That's
No,
all.
no, no.
And what is that? Part of being stupid? No, that is not stupid. I will talk about policies if that's important. And I will only get myself upset about something I think I can affect.
Yes. Yes. I
Because
draw a
that's
comparison. It's like refer to various people and why they're the way they are. You've got DeSantis, and I'm sure that he watched the TV series Handmaid's Tale, and he thinks that he wants to go there. And if what my plea is to people, Putin, Trump, DeSantis, various other dictators around the world, every single one of them are coming from an insecurity. They're coming from the little boy who didn't matter and they're trying to matter. And in their limited fear, they feel control over other people is going to make them more powerful. And they don't realize the power is within. And the more powerful they are within by loving themselves, by healing themselves, the more empowering they'll be to other people. So our choice is, do we feed them energy? Or do we override that energy with self-love and love and common sense?
Yeah, I don't care what station it is,
Mm-hmm.
what leader it
Yeah.
is. I believe that all of us, there's a little girl in me. There's a
Mm-hmm.
seed of the girl who is on the picnic table singing to people in
Uh-huh.
small town Minnesota.
And
And
enjoying every moment of it.
I loved it. It's
Yes.
when I was important.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was when I was important. And that's when I craved becoming a singer.
Mm-hmm.
But as time has gone on, the little girl that sits in there is a factor, but she's not running the whole
Yeah.
story.
Yes.
You know what I
She
mean?
reminds you of the joy, but she shows you your own experience shows you how you can manifest that joy in other ways.
Right, right. I had spent years writing songs, even once I became real.
Mm-hmm.
I
What's
left
that?
the music business after I was in the country top 100 and life happened. And that's when I started a fitness company. And then as time was going on, though, I missed my music.
Mm-hmm.
I missed it so much. And so I was writing at least a song a day of lyrics, 3 verses and a chorus to improve my writing skills. And then I thought when my son was off at college, then I could be
Yeah.
the singer, right? Well, long story short, that didn't quite happen. And the writings continued to accumulate under my bed. I had all these boxes, screaming expectations, talking about the things I didn't do, the things I should do, would
Mm-hmm.
want to do, could have done. All of these bad messages came
Yeah.
from those boxes that include some beautiful lyrics and writings. So when I was 52 years old, I decided to have a bonfire. Yep.
You burnt all those songs?
I took all those writings. It was 8 grocery bags full of
Wow.
writings. And the fire, at first I started thinking I could do, 3, 4 pages at a time. Oh no, by the end I was throwing in full notebooks because it took 4 hours to burn
Wow.
all of them.
Wow.
But it wasn't in anger.
Mm-hmm.
Had that as a ceremonial moment.
Yeah.
We
Releasing.
have all of this in
Mm-hmm.
us.
Mm-hmm.
And I believed if the words were to come back, they would. And I believe
Yes.
that they've come back in free falling.
Right.
I probably am not going to go out and do any major concerts anywhere, though I do remember some of the songs that were under the bed. But the truth is, my voice has changed.
Yes.
My voice has changed into that of a writer
Mm-hmm.
of novels.
Which is your song now. And that's the
Yeah,
thing is it
that's
don't get stuck in the one genre. So you were good at that. But life comes along and it pivots us in another direction because it's time.
it's
You've had so many experiences, and back in the day, I'm sure you had somebody say, "Well, just settle down into one thing."
oh
And
yes.
I got that
Can't
all the
you
time.
be real?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, no,
No.
all of those experiences that you've had have given you some incredible skills that you actually didn't know you were accumulating. And when I
Right.
started podcasting, I didn't even know what a podcast was when somebody asked me to be on her network. And I didn't know I could do this. And then the more I did it and then started my own network, I didn't know how to do this. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to create show pages, but I just learned as I went, right?
Wow.
You learn as you go and you just are willing to pivot. Okay, that's not working. Let's try something else. Can I do this? I don't know, but let's try. Right.
Wow.
And just if the passion is there, if the heart is there, then you've already got the ability because it's been accumulated through everything else you've done. It's
Right.
just channeling it and believing that you can.
Well, you are a wonderful example of that. And I would also add that clearly being able to pivot in the ways that you have to be a pretty bright woman, not only a good spirit, which is flexible in its approach to life, but you have to be bright enough to be able to take on the turns in the ways that you have.
It's spiritual brightness, not academic. I exempted myself from school at 16, so that would have been grade 8. And I'd missed so much schooling due to illness. So I knew I never, ever was going to excel. Plus, I found out I had dyslexia and learning disabilities. So regular school could never teach me. But I learned better by doing, by being, by experiencing. And that became my education. And that the knowingness, what I channel, the wisdom I channel through that resonates with my heart and truth, that goes to my spirit into action and allows my mind to know what it needs to know when it needs to know it. And that is from a place that I live and trust.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's a very beautiful part of you.
Thank you. It took me a long time to allow myself to be this without apology or trying to explain it. And now, yes, Popeye says, I am what I am. And I
I
think
am
that,
what I am.
yeah, and I mean, that's this thing, right? It's seniors. We should be able to look at where we're at right now. I am what I am. I love what I do. Do not throw me out to pasture. If I am still sensual or sexual, and I still want to make ravaged love, and I can, let me. Don't interfere. I have earned my right to make my choices at this stage in life.
I also want to add that I don't judge people who've chosen the pasture.
Yes,
No, there are people who've been put out to pasture, and that's a fit for them.
yes. Be
And
true to who you are, though, not because
that's
somebody put you there, right?
that's right.
Mm.
As long as it's your joy,
Yes,
then
yes,
do that.
yes.
Enjoy your time in the pasture.
I mean, I look at some people and I look at just the simplicity of their life and how they love groups and how they love doing this with this person on Tuesday and that person on Thursday and I'm envious of the fact that they could do that. I'm just too much of a free bird. And I'm too much of the wind. And I love coming in and visiting, but I'm out again. I just can't do these regimental things. And the most regimented I've been is either when you had children, you got to get them to school, fed, bed, and everything else, right?
Right.
And then doing this because there are things I have to do in order to produce a show. And so, became kind of in the true colors, the gold color of strategy and building and allow that color to come up and be because it's something I ran from all the time. I had to be the wind.
Oh, I love that you've been the wind. And you are the wind for many people, I'm sure, by having this format for
Mm,
being able to help people find their own wind
yes.
and to trust their own wind and to ride it for as long as it feels right. And then when it doesn't feel right, trust that too.
Yes, yes. You're never too old to change directions. I've had many an 80-year-old on. I've had my oldest person I've interviewed was 92, and she'd started a new TV station and a couple of years prior taken a new lover. And she's still going, so, and Esther, who wrote during COVID every single day, wrote a poem every single day. And she's an artist, a new musician, but she was a prisoner of war in Singapore by the Japanese when she started out in life, and then kind of became a prisoner of a husband that she chose because of the prison mentality. But she is one of those people that chose life and
Oh,
chooses to live it. And that's the thing is when you choose to live life, all those bumps and trips that you have along the way, you just learn how to get back up and you learn what is important. You learn what to be grateful for. And you realize very often it's not the big grandiosa things. Those are wonderful highlights in your lives, but that's all they are. It's the everyday simplicity that is beautiful.
yes, I think you're right. And the part that for me is thrilling is to be me in evolution, to
Yes.
be able to see and appreciate the changes in me, even the challenges I face, and to be able to ride it out instead of in the past having this limited version of who I should be and how I should feel about me when I'm off that track.
Exactly. Yeah. It's you may not go the same speed. You know, it's the tortoise and the hare in the analogy. I've become the tortoise. I used to be the hare, right? And I'd rush into something. I see it. I've got the possibilities. I can see the finished product and whom it's going to serve. Come on, everybody, let's do it. And now I have realized the benefit of being the tortoise, the one step at a time, gradually getting there, building it, the foundation, the sure-footedness in order to be able to build something of substance. And I've learned the pleasure of that. But you couldn't have told me that when I was young. And in your youth, that's when you do have the wings. That's when you do fly and experiment and see how far you can go in the sky. And, you know, but every decade has its reason.
Well, and I would say for me, and I don't know how many other people have this, when I had the wings, supposedly, I also had the constrictions that came from the family rules
Oh
that
boy,
I,
yeah. Yes.
and so that kept me from believing in myself
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
in the ways that I do now. And even though I've experienced success anyway,
Yes.
it wasn't the same kind of feeling about being successful. It was always
To please others.
it was to please others. And was it ever enough?
Right. No, it
Oh,
never would be
yes.
enough. Yeah.
No, you got to the top 100. Well, why weren't you in the top 10? And
Yes.
then, you know what I mean? There were always these messages
Yes.
of
That you're not enough.
limitation.
It's not
Yeah.
enough. I don't, you know, I think this is one of the biggest things that we as a human race impose on each other. The two things I hate is comparison and competing with each other. Do not compare. You are unique. You are your own beautiful instrument. Learn how to play it. Play it well as a soloist, but be able to come to the orchestra when in your strength, harmoniously, you can play together and transcend. And you're good enough. It's the four agreements, Don Rue's four agreements.
Yes, I
Speak your
love.
word with integrity. Don't assume, ask, right? Don't take things personally. If somebody attacks you, it's their issue. They're just imposing it upon you. And do your very best, measured by what your conscience says is your best, not somebody else's. And there are four really simple codes that can make our lives so much easier because I failed in every single aspect of what others have wanted me to do in my marriage, as a mother, as a lover, in any job I've ever done because they wanted something that I couldn't give. All I could give was Sarah and what Sarah had to give. And if it wasn't enough, so be it. But I punished myself for so long for not living up to those expectations. But those expectations weren't about me, they were about themselves.
Right. That's right. It is hard to come to that, though. It
Yeah.
takes some time under your belt
Yes.
to
You've
be
you've
able.
got you've got to be willing to go in and really look. And you know, like in your writing of the book, you've taken time to do it. And as you said, all the things that you've seen and done, etc., have kind of found their way into the book. But I am sure when reading back the book, there was a lot of little epiphanies and realizations for yourself as you
Yeah.
read it back.
Oh, I believe I kind of channeled the
Yes.
book. I
Hmm.
know that sounds weird, but
No.
I could feel the characters
Yeah.
saying things.
Yes.
I start to see where it was moving. It's a thrilling feeling, but you're
Yeah.
right. When you're done with it, I sent it to an editor to make sure that it hit the mark. And wow, when the edit conversation came back, I was in awe
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what had happened on paper.
Yes.
And I
And
was,
that's beautiful because it's another journey.
yes,
You're no longer the author, you're the discoverer.
yes. It's just an adventure
Mm.
that you take and you go, wow, we went there. I
Yes.
know at the second half of the book, I don't want to ruin the story, but I did not know that was going to happen at all.
Yes.
The book started out as the dilemma, which really focused on this relationship in the beginning. It became free falling because then the process of this loving woman having dementia and still having the happiest chapters of her life,
Hmm.
and the people that surrounded her and the way her experiences manifested into her world, that was a story I needed to read.
Yes. Oh, yes. So, I mean, I interview an awful lot of authors and always ask them about their characters, and they say no, they took on a life of their own. And then in reading it back, it became a lesson to me or a realization, a discovery of self. And that is the thing is that when you surrender and allow, you've got the you've got the outline, you've got the strategy. You know,
Oh, absolutely.
I know an awful lot of people say, no, you've got to know exactly what you're going to write. Every chapter's got to have its title. You've got to have the beginning and the end. And not for me. All right. I've got to have a gist of what I want to write or what
Yes.
more about what message I want to send. Because I'm a
Mm.
blogger. So what message I want to send. But I just allow. And in the allowing, the revealing is always extraordinary. And I think I love it when people, when they've read back their own book of what they've discovered and what has come out, because I think it's, yes, you're writing it for everyone else, and everybody that's going to read it is going to have their own little reveals, their own moments that are going to come out in them, because that's the gift of a book. That's the kiss of the author. But the reveal to yourself, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that is very thrilling. And you know what? I would say it's also a different kind of courage.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
it's an interesting word to use in reference to writing.
Yeah.
But if I'm willing to take the ride into the spaces I didn't see before, it is a kind of courage. You're right. You start out with an outline,
Yeah.
you start out with an intention
Hmm.
of where you want to go with the story, but it will unfold itself.
Hmm.
And then the question is, will I stand behind what unfolded under
Yes.
my watch? And
And
I
that's
stand behind it. I stand behind free
which
fall.
I'm pleased to hear, because that is the most authentic way of writing, is not dictating. But we as humanoids love to dictate how things should be. But based on who, on what, on society's dysfunctional expectations. But when you allow what is meant to be, and you're willing to open up in that vulnerability and that trust, what will come is the truth and is what was meant to be.
Ultimately, that's true. That is true. But it is a journey. And I remember I write from midnight to 4 a.m. And I remember days where the light was
Mm.
already up by the time I could finally stop writing because I got into the flow
Yes.
and it was so deep. And then I would go back the next day after waking up and read it and be confused.
Flabbergasted?
Yes. Sometimes very sad about what
Mm.
I know. And then I get all
Yeah.
excited about other things like,
Hmm.
really?
Hmm. Hmm.
Oh, it
Yes.
is important to be able to stand back and let it happen
Yeah.
and then come forward and take another look.
I know I started editing my book straight away, and my brother kind of started, but he had a heart attack and he couldn't continue on and just hasn't gone back to it. And he said, look, don't rush. Let it sit, let it savor. Come back and visit it at a totally different time. And every time went back to listen, it is like, no, I don't want to say that. I want to say this. And I actually eventually edited it through AI. My son-in-law
Oh,
showed me.
really?
Oh yeah, my son-in-law. We experimented where you give the AI instructions of how you want it to sound and how you want it to be written. And we experimented and thought, that's really beautiful, but it's not me. If I'm being interviewed,
Right.
I can't speak like that. and then eventually found one that spoke like me, but just edited it in a way that it had more flow and more, comprehension. Because again, I have no grammar and spelling with me, so it just tied it all up. But even as I read it back after doing the AI thing, I thought, did the AI do this? And I'll go back to look at what I wrote and what the AI has written. And I went, yeah, no, the AI really has captured exactly what I was trying to say, but edited it for me in a way that it just comes across better without losing my voice. And so it took me a long time to find how to edit it. And then I've just finished the editing of it. I've sent it off to my kids, so now I've got to read it.
Oh,
And it's now the rearranging of the chapters because I've written them as stories. Each one can stand on its own. So it's not a linear, I was born and now I'm nearly dead. It's nothing like that. It's a lot of it is my own realizations, epiphanies along the way, and some of it's the intricate stories. So, and I wrote it because people asked me to. They asked
oh,
me for my book. What's your story, Sarah? How did you come to doing this? And so eventually I succumbed to write the thing because I'm a blog writer, so I write all the time and I do the podcast. But it is, you're right, it is intimidating writing about oneself. But I think
yeah,
every single author, and I know my brother does, I know exactly who he is in every book and the people around him, the influence, etc. It's it's kind of a cheeky way of writing about yourself in a novel, right? Because
well,
it's
in a way, it's not like you're going to sit down and say, I've got a friend who is doing this, and this is what it looked like,
yeah,
and this is the story I heard behind the scene, and
right.
this is how it, even if it's not mine, I'm not going to come forward and say my friend did this,
Yes. Yeah.
but yeah, my opinion about it
Yes.
is my
Perspective. Yes.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's a primary relationship that a friend had 30 years ago. And they ended out living happily ever after. I mean, how
Mm,
can you judge what choices were being made then? But I could see where it could have gone in another
hmm.
direction. And knowing people in the ways that I have known them, I saw some other direction answers too. So I was able to kind of blend it all
Yeah.
together.
And the reveal. Well, I think people have been very much enticed into wanting to read this book now and know all about it and kind of like, well, how much is her in the book? And because that's what we always want to know, right? We want to know more about each other. Because
Yes,
in more about each other, we have a better understanding of ourselves, but it also is that connection that we all crave. Having that affinity with someone, relating to someone,
right.
feeling that vibe where we feel like they could be speaking to me or they could be speaking for me. And that's really, I think, is what authoring can do. A good book will keep on giving. You could revisit it and it could be a totally different meaning for you the second time round.
Right.
You
That's
know,
what I've been hearing.
and also, and I encourage book clubs where people read and then talk about it, but I encourage podcast clubs where people listen to a podcast and in your case, kind of read the book and then come together. What did they learn from the podcast? What did they learn from the book? Because this is your understanding. Now open up to somebody else's understanding and their perspective. And now you have a feast before you that's
Right.
opened up. So I encourage people to do that because it's also a wonderful way of us discovering each other in ways sometimes that we don't quite always know how to articulate.
Yes, I think art does that.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think it lets people into who we are, whether it be in a song, in a painting, in a photo. The way I take a photo and look at the world through my eyes is different from a person standing right next to me who sees the same view, but filters it through their perspective. And I believe writing is exactly that. And then you have the observer, which
Hmm.
is the reader in this situation, and the reader's filters.
Yes.
They may get in there and say, whoa, this happened to me,
Yeah.
or I had a friend who had that,
Yeah.
or I never really thought about it that way. you know?
Yeah.
And
And that's what
so,
makes it intriguing, right?
yeah.
We want to be able to put something down and go, oh, that felt good. Or,
Hmm.
oh, wow, I learned something of that. Or I want to refer this book, or I want to talk about it, or I want to, kind of have a chat with someone. While reading this book, this, came up, and that's the beauty of a book. It's the same when we listen to a song, or when we look at a piece of art, or when we watch a certain movie, we want to talk about it. And what I
Right.
love about an author that is also an artiste is that your artistic eye reveals itself in the writing. I had an author on the other day, Sam Weiss, who is actually been a musician, a guitarist since she was 12, and a
Oh,
singer and a songwriter, and she is an artist as well. And she just written her first book, and she did this song called "The Shape of Time," and listening to the song, you knew it was an artist's perspective on time because she could see the different type of shapes of what time is. And so I think when
oh,
you come from an artistic background, you can't help but put that artistry in your book. So it's not just kind of a straight book, reflection on life. I know that your art, your music, and everything else is in this book, creating its own rhythm.
oh, I love that you see it that way. I do think writing is like writing a book is kind of like writing a song. I
Yeah.
feel music in a paragraph.
Mm.
I use punctuation to create like staccato effects.
Hmm.
And then there are flow effects.
Yes.
And that those kinds of changes for me create an emotional
Mm.
journey that is subtle, but it's there because our punctuation gives the reader the inference of what's
Yes.
happening.
Exactly. That when to pause. And I'm a flow writer as I am a flow speaker. I love the rhythm of like this is going to, I don't like flat linear. Give me something, keeps me in flow. I love that. Um, and I think when you read something, when you know that it comes from somebody who is a musician and artist, there's that you can feel it. It does become that song, or it does become that vision of art, writing it in a way that you see the artistry. And I think that's what makes it so exciting. So it's wonderful. So now we've got to tell people how to get hold of the book, love, and how to get hold of you.
Oh, I can be reached at
Can you
emespirit.com.
spell that for people who are just listening?
Yes. It's E as in energy, M as in me, E as in energy, spirit, SPIRIT.com. That's my website. So you'll see everything from performances to photography. And of course, you can get my book there. The book also can be purchased at any bookseller, and you can get it through your libraries too.
Mm,
And at freefalling.com, that will take you right into Amazon. Free Falling, a novel of senior romance, is the full name of the book. But I notice now when I put in Free Falling by Eme, the
hmm.
book comes up. So I'd love it if people would go and get the book and read the book. I even have an audio book.
Oh, wonderful. Right.
Yes, I did my own audio book.
Mm,
I'm hearing good things about that. So there are lots of ways, even for people who just love to multitask. We have a way to listen to.
exactly. And the beauty of it too is for somebody who's embarking into the senior world, because if you age, that is a gift. You've been given a gift of time. What are you going to do with that time? It's always good to hear those stories and perspectives from other seniors that are older than you, to know what to expect, to know, especially in this case, you talk about the obstacles, you talk about the challenges, but you emphasize on the love and the romance, and that romance is never over. I mean, look at the Golden Girls, right? I
Oh,
mean,
no.
what was her name? Flo?
Oh,
The sexy one. That was
Rue. Yeah, Rue Callahan. What was her character's name? And I've watched it so many times. And she comes in and
Yes.
she's waving her
Yeah.
shoulders in,
Yeah.
and she's got a little shimmy and everything
Yes.
she does.
Yes.
Don't you think we should be doing that?
Yeah. She was the epitome of sexuality, right? The
Yeah,
epitome of it. And I relate more to Biafra,
the
and
Arthur was
I'm
pretty
kind of more,
straightforward.
yeah, and I love her dry sense of humor. I loved her. And of course, Betty White, what an icon. But,
Oh, charming.
put them all together, they transcend any age group because of the camaraderie, because of the view of life, because of the mischief they get up into, even because of the challenges they talk about. And that's the thing, is that there's so much to learn from people outside of your age bracket. That be
Right.
open to listen and to learn, because they become those wonderful nuggets of information and inspiration that help propel you forward in life.
Oh, they do. They do. When I'm exercising at night here, I have an exercise room where I can go and watch the Golden Girls.
Hmm.
They're on
Yeah.
at 9 o'clock.
Right. Well, yeah, I haven't seen them for a while, but I know that actually Pluto TV, which is an app and it's free. And if you've got a Comcast or something, you can put it to your TV, and they have over all the old shows on that. So I'm
Yeah.
sure it's on there. And I think it's actually great to actually introduce the Golden Girls to your younger generation. And,
Oh, yes.
please do not put us out to pasture before we are ready. We've still got so much inside of it. We may be slower, we may be a little bit more repetitive, but there's still so much more to us. Please see us, not for the exterior boundaries or financial or anything else, but what is in the interior of us, because there's so much for you to learn that you can take with on your own journey of life.
Absolutely. And live the joy all the way through.
All the way through. Now, of course, you also are on Facebook, Eme
I'm
Spirit.
on Facebook at Eme Spirit. I also have a page, Eme McAnam, which is where it started, but then I got 5,000 friends and I had to build a business page. So every
Right.
day I post a picture on Facebook and have for more than 7 years
Mhm.
now. And I have an Instagram account, but that's not as vibrant and
No.
I don't quite understand it. I do it.
Yes, I do too. I'm with you on that. I just don't find it as interactive. Um,
No,
and I
my
find
people on
Facebook and LinkedIn very interactive, Facebook especially, but Twitter I use for posting, Instagram I use for posting, but it's actually even awkward to have a conversation. Yeah, yeah, and I know a lot of people love it, but those are the phone people that like to do everything from the phone. And I am showing my age. I don't want to do everything on the phone. Thank you.
well, I do a lot on the phone, to be honest, but I miss the interactions, like you
Yes,
said.
yes,
On Facebook, people come under my pictures. A
yes,
lot of them are there every single day.
yes,
And so it's just a touchstone for
yeah.
them, for me. It's a piece of the world being shared. And I have started advertising. I'm doing a book talk tomorrow night
Mm,
here in the Twin City area. And I'm being interviewed by a man who's been a guru in the industry forever. And so it's a fun place to
yes.
share with people what I'm actually doing that they can maybe come to.
Yes, exactly. Or
That's
listening to, of course, this podcast is around the world, so people can, it doesn't matter what time or day or how you want to listen, audio, video, or just read her blog. Yeah, that's the thing.
I
It's
love
that
that.
if people can tune in how they want to tune in, when they want to tune in, and the way they want to tune in, it's there available, and that's the beauty of today's technology, right? Listen to it while you're doing the housework, or
Yep.
you're driving in the car, you're doing mundane things that you can automatically do. And so you're listening to something, and that's the beauty, that's the gift. I
That
fell in
is the
love with
gift.
podcasting for that reason. It all the people that, the traditional way of interviewing is 2 or 3 minutes and very shallow. And
I
what I love
know.
about this is that we've taken 2 hours and we've pulled back the onions and rings and
Oh my word. Have we gone 2 hours?
yeah, we have.
Oh, good grief. I'm
Very easy on
supposed to have
my
company
podcast.
for dinner. I think I'm going to call her up and say, let's go out.
Oh, yes, this is out with a glass of wine and just let the spirit fly. Absolutely.
That's
Totally. But I
right.
could talk to you for another 2 hours very, very easily. You're a
Oh,
fascinating
I
woman.
could
I certainly
too.
do want you to be a part of the Forgotten Seniors book that we will start next year. But it is very, very important that we re-educate people on the value of a senior, of a wise one, of an elder, whichever you wish to call us, but don't dismiss us. We have so much to
No,
share, so much to give, and still so much to do. We just do it a little slower, or perhaps in a different way, but we've still got the enthusiasm.
we've still got it. We-
Absolutely. And it ain't going anywhere, folks. It's just
I don't
channeled
think
differently.
so. I don't plan on it.
This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. And of course, when you do your next book, you have to come back and share all about that as well.
Well, Sarah, I would love to do that. So hopefully next year we'll get together on that one.
Definitely, definitely. Folks, whether you've listened to this and you're not a senior yet, but you've got senior parents, please don't just think like they're rocking chair people and that's the end of their life, or look at their ailments or the challenges that they're dealing with. There's so much more in them. Ask them questions, let them talk about their life, see them for the exuberance that they are. Please don't shut them away or shut them down, because we are still absolutely wonderfully flawsome, and we're here to share all that we have done and who we are and all the advice that we can give you, but just simply the exuberance of the joy of living. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tab at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration, it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.